Okay, super fucking fast video. Hopefully less than 5 minutes. So basically, there's this thing called the warp, and it's the immaterium. That's what it's called. It's the dimension between dimensions, and it's a bunch of magic and fuckery and bullshit. And there's this group of shamans from way before recorded history that they have access to the warp, and they're all really powerful. And for some reason, they decide to do a fusion dance, and they make the Emperor of Mankind. The Emperor of Mankind is a really powerful psyker. A psyker is someone who can tap into the warp. And do powers. And the Emperor of Mankind is leading mankind through its trials and tribulations throughout history. But he doesn't make himself known, and for some reason he really fucks up at one point because it fucking Earth turns into Mad Max, and then he has to make these things called Thunder Warriors that fight off they fight off the Mad Max guys, and then they unify the entire Earth through a thing called the Unification Wars. Okay. And then the Unification Wars happens, and the Emperor is going to go on a great crusade to unify the entire the spread out remnants of humanity across the galaxy. But before he does that, he gets trapped by a warp storm. A warp storm is a storm that comes from the warp, the immaterium. I talked about this. He gets trapped, so he doesn't. He's like, I'm not going to sit on my ass. So he makes 20 sons from his gene seed. It's basically DNA, but they call it gene seed. But then the chaos gods from the warp, they're like the amalgamations of terrible, horrible shit. They steal the sons of the Emperor, and then they scatter them across the galaxy on human inhabited planets. And then the Emperor goes out to find these kids before starting his Great Crusade. So, okay, the Great Crusade, the Emperor goes out and finds these kids. The first one he finds, his name is Horus Lupercal. He's also known as the Lupercal. That's crazy. Horus, he's the Emperor's favorite son because he found him first, and they get to know each other. And the Emperor really loves Horus, and Horus is like, "Oh my God, you're my dad." And then when they find all of the other Primarch sons, they all really love Horus. And one day, Horus is subject to a chaos ritual, and it turns him into chaos, and he sees a vision of the future where humanity is all like really stupid, and the Emperor is on life support, and everyone's dead, and he's like, I have to stop this future. So he turns to chaos because he thinks chaos can help him stop the dark future that's going to happen. And then he turns half of the Primarch roster into Chaos Primarchs, or he turns them to Chaos. He doesn't turn them into Chaos Primarchs. Different thing. He turns them to Chaos, and then all of the Loyalist guys, they stay Loyalist. He ends up killing a few, and then he goes to Terra after this whole debacle, and then he turns off the energy barrier around his ship because he's like, I can't siege the high palace of Terra. So the Emperor teleports onto a ship alongside his second favorite son, Sanguinius. And then they're like, we have to find Horus, and then they split up, and then Sanguinius finds Horus first, and Sanguinius dies, and then he finds the Emperor, or the Emperor finds him, and Sanguinius is dead, fucking mutilated, mangled body on the floor, and then they fight, and then Horus gets the upper hand, and he almost kills the Emperor, and then one of the Emperor's guard, it's called the Adeptus Custodes, he fucking shanks Horus, and then Horus turns him into ground beef, and then the Emperor gets the upper hand, and then he erases Horus's signature in the warp, which is a really powerful thing to do, but the Emperor is near death after getting his eye poked out. That's a separate story. He is put on this piece of Golden Age human technology called the Golden Throne, and this was in the 30th millennia, so he has been on that golden throne for 10,000 years. Present day 40k, it's in the 41st millennia. It's a whole thing. He's put on this golden throne, and 100 or 1,000 humans are sacrificed every day to keep him alive. And then fast forward to the age of apostasy. The Emperor didn't want himself to be worshipped as a god because he thought atheism was like the best way that humanity could move forward. Humanity establishes the ecclesiarchy, which is basically the imperial cult that worships the Emperor as a god. This guy named Goj vandire, he makes himself the High Lord of Terra, which is basically like pseudo-emperor now. He got High Lord of Terra by killing and murdering and spying his way there. And then he's a fucking baby, and he's like he's a tantrum thrower, and he like throws grenades at planets, and he fucking blows them up, and he melts polar ice caps. And then one of his advisors is like, there's an imperial cult on this planet called San Lior, and then he goes there and they throw a big parade for him, and they discover the daughters of the Emperor, these warrior women nuns that are like, we love the Emperor so much. And then he goes to their high temple and they don't let him in, and he gets pissed and he's like, I am fucking the chosen one of the Emperor, and they're like, okay, prove it. And then he's like, okay, shoot me. And then they shoot him, and then this big energy ball comes up from him, but the daughters of the Emperor think that's because he was chosen by the Emperor, but no, it was actually because of this thing called the Rosarius, and it just generated an energy field. So they renamed them to the Brides of the Emperor, and he does a bunch of nasty shit with them, and they're his personal fucking concubines and hit women, and fucking it's all really nasty. So then his reign goes on for a few more years. That's an exaggeration. And then this guy named Sebastian Thor, he's like, I'm fed up with this guy, and a lot of people are also fed up with this guy, and I want to spread the actual imperial truth. And then a lot of people start like, they love Sebastian Thor. Oh god, I'm out of breath. They love him, and then Goj vandire finds out about him, and he sends an assassin to kill him, a bunch of assassins. And then some of them end up joining his side. They don't end up actually killing him ever. And then he incites a rebellion, and he's like, we have to siege the High Palace of Terra. A whole bunch of guys like get involved, like the Space Marines, the Adeptus Mechanicus. These are like warrior, like techno monks that live on Mars. Oh my god, I forgot the Space Marines. Anyways, they each pick a side. They're like, Goj vandire, he's the High Lord of Terra, we can't disrespect that. And they're also like, this is not what the Emperor would have wanted. So then they fight, and then the guy, a type of guy from earlier, an Adeptus Custodes, he is on the attacking side, and he goes in through a secret chamber in the High Palace of Terra to find the leader of the Brides of the Emperor. Her name is Alicia, Dominica, and her posse of badass warrior women, and they almost kill him, and then he's like, stop this madness, oh my god, like fucking, this is not what the Emperor would have wanted. And then she's like, how do you know what the Emperor would have wanted? And then he's like, okay, follow me to the basement. And then they go to the basement, and then they find the corpse of the Emperor on the golden throne. And nobody knows what was said in the chamber except for the people that were in there. But when they left, Alicia Dominica, the leader of the fucking badass warrior nun women, she was really pissed. And then she went to Goj vandire's bedroom, and she was like, she said, you have defiled his profane name, prepare to die. And then Goj vandire is like, I don't have time to die, I'm too busy. That's verbatim. He says, I don't have time to die, I'm busy. And then she brings up her power sword, which is just a sword with an energy field around it, and she brings it down to swing on him to fucking cleave this fucking monster in half. And then he's like, I mean, he's pretty confident, and he's also crazy because of his Rosarius. But then, just as it makes contact, the Rosarius malfunctions, and then it doesn't stop him from getting cleaved in half, so he gets cleaved in half. And then Sebastian Thor, wonderful guy, he becomes the new High Lord of Terra, and then because of this whole debacle with sieging the High Palace of Terra, he's like, no men can bear arms in service of the ecclesiarchy, but the Adeptus Sororitas, which are the Brides of the Emperor, they just renamed them to the Adeptus Sororitas, or Sisters of Battle, sorry. The Sisters of Battle aren't men. They really want to make this rule apparent that no men can bear arms in the service of the Emperor, so their armor has boobs, so you know that they're not men. That's why the boob armor exists.